I've always been into survival camping. Not the kind with coolers of food and an RV parked nearby, but the real stuff, hiking out miles into the woods with only the basics. A tent, water, a fire starter, and whatever you can carry on your back. I've been doing trips like this for years. It's my way of escaping everything. Out there, you're cut off. No phones, no social media, just you, the forest, and silence. This time, though, I convinced my buddy Mark to come along. He had never tried it before, but he wanted the challenge. He asked me if it was safe, and I laughed it off. "It's just the woods," I told him. "If you can handle being hungry, you can handle this." We picked the Blue Ridge Mountains because it was remote enough to feel untouched. No cars, no cell service, no other campers for miles. Just us and whatever the forest had in store. The first day went fine. We hiked hard, set up our tents near a creek, boiled some water, and sat by the fire until the stars came out. By midnight, the fire was fading, and Mark crashed early. I wasn't as tired, so I stayed up for a while, staring at the embers. Eventually, though, I needed to take a leak. I grabbed my boots, stepped away from camp, and stood facing the tree line. That was when I heard a crack. Not loud, but sharp enough to pull my eyes upward. At first, I thought it was nothing, just the forest settling. Then I noticed it, a shape clinging to the side of a pine tree, about 10 feet up. It looked like a person holding themselves against the trunk, arms and legs pressed into the bark like they were trying to blend in. I squinted, my stomach tightening. I have a bad habit of seeing things at night that aren't there. My eyes love to turn shadows into faces, and every tree stump into some kind of figure. So I stood there, staring, telling myself it was nothing. I even chuckled quietly, muttering, "That's creepy," under my breath. The longer I watched it, the more creeped out I got. I finished, zipped up, and walked slowly back toward camp. For a second, I told myself not to look back, but I couldn't help it. I turned my head. The figure was gone, not climbing down, not shifting away, just gone. The bark was empty, bare in the moonlight, like no one had been there at all. A chill ran through me. My first thought was to wake Mark, but I didn't. He would laugh, tell me I was imagining things, and I wasn't sure I wanted to hear him say it. I crawled into my tent instead, zipped it up, and lay down. My eyes were heavy, and I let them start to close. That's when I heard the ruffling. At first it was soft, like fabric brushing against itself. Then it grew louder, more violent, like something was thrashing against Mark's tent. I sat up, my body rigid. The noise didn't stop. It shifted and dragged, followed by low sounds that didn't make sense. Groaning, moaning, something trying to mimic a voice, but not quite human. My heart hammered in my chest. We had no phones, no quick way to call for help. Just two tents in the middle of nowhere, and something outside making that sound. I wanted to yell for Mark, but the words froze in my throat. I unzipped my tent just enough to see the campfire glow on his side. His tent shook faintly, like something was pressing against it from the inside. And then, just as sudden as it started, everything stopped. The forest fell silent. Not even a cricket. I whispered his name, barely audible. Mark. There was no answer. Only the faint flap of nylon shifting in the breeze. When I finally worked up the nerve to pull a zipper open, the tent was empty. His sleeping bag was torn wide down the center, stuffing scattered across the ground. I forced myself to open the flap wider. The inside of Mark's tent was a mess, his sleeping bag shredded open, bits of insulation scattered across the ground. For a second, I thought he was gone, and my stomach dropped into ice. Then I saw him. He was sprawled on his back, completely still. His chest rose faintly, so I knew he was breathing. But he wasn't responding when I called his name. I shook him. Hard. Nothing. His eyes were shut tight, like he was locked in some kind of dream. I'd done a basic first aid course years ago, and panic took over. I pulled him halfway out of the tent and started chest compressions. My hands pressed down, steady and firm, while my voice cracked through the silence. "Mark, wake up. Come on, man. Wake up." The forest around us was dead, quiet, like it was holding its breath. I couldn't even hear the creak anymore. Finally, after what felt like forever, Mark gasped. His eyes shot open and he jerked his head to the side, coughing like he'd been underwater. I froze, hands still on his chest. He blinked up at me, confused. His voice came out hoarse, like he hadn't spoken in days. "What are you doing?" he croaked. "Why are you on me?" I just sat there, shaking, unable to explain what I'd heard. The ruffling, the groaning, the tent being torn. It all seemed insane now that he was awake, and staring at me like I was the crazy one. "I heard something," I managed. "Your tent. It sounded like you were..." I stopped, because how do you even finish that sentence? Mark sat up slowly, rubbing his eyes. "Man, I was just asleep. I didn't hear anything, but I could still see the shredded sleeping bag behind him, the stuffing scattered across the dirt. And when I turned my head toward the tree line, I swore I caught the faintest sound again. Not wind, not an animal. Something soft, something like breathing." We turned our heads slowly toward the tree line. That's when it crawled out. At first, it looked like an animal. The way it dropped forward, hands slapping the dirt, legs jerking after in short bursts. But no animal moves like that. Its arms were too long, the rhythm broken, like a person forcing themselves to run on all fours. It paused in the firelight. That's when we saw it was human. The face was hollow, skin gray and blotched. Long hair hung in ropes across the cheeks. The lips were cracked, bleeding at the edges. It looked like someone who had been starving for months. A drifter, maybe. Or worse. It didn't look at us. It just kept scuttling toward Mark's tent, muttering under its breath. The voice was low and cracked, syllables strung together with no meaning. Every so often it would laugh, short and wheezing, then fall back into that mumbling. Mark gripped my arm hard enough to make me flinch, but neither of us spoke. We couldn't. The figure tore through his tent, ripping fabric like it was tissue, tossing his clothes and gear out into the dirt. Then it shifted, hunched, and crawled toward mine. Its shoulders rose and fell in quick jolts. I could hear the nails dragging across the ground, scratching. It pushed its head inside my tent. The mumbling grew louder, faster. Then it stopped. For a second, the whole forest seemed to hold its breath. The figure snapped its head back toward us. Its eyes caught the last glow of the fire, pale, reflective, almost silver. It rose halfway up, not fully standing, but tall enough now that we saw it clearly. A woman, or what used to be a woman. Her hair stuck to her face, her spine bent like it had healed wrong, her hands long and sharp at the nails. She stared at us in silence. The sound was so quiet, but it carried through the clearing like it came from the trees themselves. My whole body locked. Mark was the first to move. He stumbled backward, tripping over the shredded remains of his tent. The woman tilted her head, her eyes locked on him now. Then she dropped back to all fours and lurched forward again, slapping the dirt with her hands as she galloped toward him. Mark scrambled to his feet and screamed at her. "Stay back!" His voice cracked with fear. He grabbed a branch from the fire pit and swung it wildly, the embers scattering. The woman froze just short of the glow, her body jerking in twitching movements, like something was pulling her in two directions at once. She mumbled again, rapid and broken, eyes flicking between both of us. I finally found my voice. "We need to go." Mark looked at me, his face pale, sweat shining on his forehead. For a second, I thought he'd argue. Then the woman hissed, low and wet, and crept another step forward. That was enough. We turned and ran. No words, no plan, just pure instinct. The forest closed around us, branches clawing at our arms and legs as we tore through the dark. Behind us, I could hear her, the galloping, hands and feet slamming the ground in that broken rhythm, sometimes close, sometimes farther, like she was darting from tree to tree. I didn't dare look back. We ran until our lungs burned, until the sky started to pale with the first touch of dawn. When we finally stumbled out onto the dirt road, gasping for air, we collapsed in silence. Neither of us spoke for a long time. When Mark finally opened his mouth, his voice was hollow. "What the hell was that?" I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because even now, I don't know if it was a starving woman who lost her mind in the woods, or something older, something that never left these mountains. All I know is, when the forest gets quiet and the wind dies down, I swear I still hear it. That sound, hands slapping the dirt. We didn't grab anything. Not the tents, not the bags, not the gear. We left it all behind. We just ran. Jogging at first, then sprinting, crashing through brush and branches until we hit the dirt road where the cars were parked. Every step felt like something was at our backs, just out of sight, chasing. By the time we saw the vehicles, the sky was turning pale. We didn't stop moving until we were locked inside. Doors slammed, gasping for air. Neither of us said a word on the drive out. We never went back for our stuff. It's probably still out there, shredded and rotting in the dirt. To this day, I can't explain what we saw. Maybe it was just some starving woman who lost her mind out in the mountains. Maybe it was something older, something that was never meant to be seen. All I know is, when the night gets too quiet and the wind dies down, I still hear it. That sound, hands slapping the dirt. If you enjoyed that campfire story, please like and subscribe. This channel was created to bring the most chilling stories to horror fans. Have a spooky night.